So we are on to episode 23 of season 2. It's so close to the end now, Brian, and this one is entitled Soft Light. Is this a big X-Files episode?
It's memorable, I think. I see, we do this a lot in that at the end of the last episode, you always ask me what I think, and I give you my thoughts, and then I watch the episode, and then I often think, I don't know if I should have said what I said. Okay, so going into this, before watching it again for the sake of this, I just said, it's a reasonably big episode for season 2. Vince Gilligan's name being on the writer's credit. I know he's done some really great episodes in this. This was his first. Is it as great as he gets? Definitely not. I'll say that much. But yeah, let's get into it. I don't know, because I think our conversation on this will really affect my final score. So
yeah, okay, right, interesting. Let's go.
Okay, so we start at a hotel, and some guy comes down the corridor and starts banging on a door. He's trying to wake some guy up, and another fella in the hotel room just across from this door kind of hears all the commotion, goes to his door and looks through the peephole. And as he's looking through the peephole, this man's shadow, the man on the outside banging on the door, his shadow kind of comes underneath the peephole guy's door. And yeah, this guy just disappears, basically. And the fella outside the door seems to realise that something has happened, and he just legs it and gets the hell out of there. So yeah.
For me, it was an interesting opening. I do like those moodily lit hallways in hotels. The only ones in the movies that seem to be just a little bit too dark. But I like it. And Tony Shalhoub as the sort of main guy looked particularly dishevelled, as he generally does anyway.
Monk. Yeah, this is the first thing I ever saw him in. Because this predates Men in Black.
Yes.
So first thing I saw him in.
So I like the episode, or I like this part of the episode, the opening. The shadows and the guy fall into it was a really cool and unexpected sort of something new to this series. Like I said, I wasn't expecting it. First thing that popped into my head was that, do you know that wholly unique and never heard before horror movie that came out last year, I think, Lights Out?
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, the X-Files done it again.
Right, yeah.
Something in the shadows and playing with light, and that's what causes it. I'm just like, yeah. So, quite a cool and fun opening, I thought.
I think at the end of last episode, when you asked me about this one, I said, well, I won't say much more because I don't want to spoil it. But I think you pretty much get what's going on, right? Yeah. From the outset. You can tell it's his shadow. Like, you watch this intro and you think, oh, a man with a killer shadow. Okay, this is interesting. Where's this going to go? So, so nothing spoiled in that regard. So, next scene, we go to Mulder and Scully arriving at the hotel room where this man has apparently been abducted. That's the way they're treating it anyway. And the woman who's brought Mulder and Scully in is a woman called Kelly Ryan, who is an ex-student of Scully's. This is her first case, and she's a bit nervous. But if her superiors found out she'd called in the FBI, they'd be a little bit narked at her. But the way the scene plays out is it's quite funny in parts. There's a couple of references to previous episodes. We get a Tombs reference.
Which was terrific.
It was, yes. Just the way Scully's looking at the grate and Kelly Ryan's like, you don't think someone's going to crawl through there. And Scully acknowledges it. Scully, like the way Scully says that, like you never know kind of thing, it shows that actually she believes the whole Tombs stretchy man thing. So, she's accepted that. But anyway, they look at the only piece of evidence that's in the room, which is the burn mark, which is bizarrely being covered up by a mat, which I don't quite understand, because if this is the only piece of evidence in the room, who's covered it up and why have they covered it up? And surely it's tampering with evidence. Yeah, it didn't make sense.
I mean, I'll take a leaf out of your book and I'll do some supposing.
Some pretty big supposing.
Some pretty big supposing. It could be the fact that it's the main entrance or the only entrance to the room, and to stop people from, stepping in evidence, they may have covered it to protect it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I reaching?
I think you're reaching. I think
Cool.
if you've got that kind of evidence, you don't cover it with just a communal garden mat. You might put plastic over it, something that isn't going to taint the evidence. Typically, all the other agents are just, it's a burn mark on the floor. Big deal.
Yeah.
Mulder is the only one who's like, hey, that's a bit out of the ordinary, isn't it? He's kind of looking at it, looking at the shape, putting his arm up, and even I think this is a bit of a reach, for Mulder. He's like, hey, doesn't that look like the shape of a hand to you? And so, Mulder's theory, spontaneous human combustion.
Yeah. I mean, it's coming.
Something's coming, yeah.
Yeah, and you're quite happy that he comes out with it. It's funny. You're just kind of expecting it,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It does lead to something even funnier later on, which I'll get to.
Kind of like this scene as well. I like the eager beaver detective on her first case.
Clarice Starling. She's got Clarice Starling written all over her. Like, she's got Jodie Foster written all over her. The way they've cast her very specifically, I think, because she's got a slight look of Jodie Foster, the way Jodie Foster acts in Silence of the Lambs. I don't think that's coincidence.
Mm-hmm. And I like this kind of relationship between Scully and this character as well. It's an interesting dynamic. It's not one that we've really seen before with kind of protege, but it was interesting. Yeah,
and there is a comment that Scully makes later that does feed into that whole Clarice Starling vibe, which I'm sure they were going for, trying to ape. Also, this being a person from one of our two leads' personal lives, given the history that we've had in this show, there's probably really only one outcome with this character, quite frankly. But there you go. We'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, and I didn't see that coming at this point. I don't know why. I was just like, oh, cool. Hopefully she'll be a returning character.
You've never learned then. You've never learned from past episodes. Okay, fair enough. So we get to someone's house. I got to say, a little bit lost at this point. I didn't quite get whose house they were turning up at. It dawned on me after, once I carried on watching.
Yeah, they were talking about the recent people that had died in a similar fashion or disappeared, and this was one of their houses. Yeah, I just felt that, given there was quite a lot of dialogue going on in the previous scene, I felt like that piece of information maybe got a bit lost under it. It wasn't quite clear. So we have Mulder and Scully turning up at another victim's house, and there's another bulb out. The bulb at the front of the garden has been put out. Oh, yeah, that reminds me, just before that, they did go out into the corridor, and they noticed that the bulb was out. Mulder Scully took the bulb out with the prophylactic, if that's the proper word for it. At first, it looked like she had a tissue, and I'm like, what's she doing? She's wiping all the fingerprints off with that thing, the way she's spinning it. And then I realised it was a rubber glove. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, never mind, that's fine. Okay, yeah. We get to this other house, another bulb is out, and there's a scorch mark inside the house. Mulder finds a train ticket in the bin, which links to, it links at least two of the victims, because there's been 3 victims in total. But it links 2 of the victims to the same train station, where Mulder thinks someone may be hunting victims. So Mulder's thinking serial killer, picking and choosing the victims at a train station. Yep, and again, there's one little interaction that I like in this scene, and it's between Scully and Mulder, as it's like jokes. They have a little joke. Mulder asks if he can borrow a prophylactic from Scully, and then Scully makes a Batman joke about a utility belt. It's nice little interactions. They're just, even on the case, they're just having like playful banter. It's nice when it takes these little asides just to let you, attune to the characters again.
Yeah, it builds the characters. It kind of, it's all part of that chemistry between them that we love so much. So, yeah. So we get to the train station, and we see this guy, the guy from the beginning, whose shadow was, and he's looking very twitchy. He's looking at the floor, checking his shadow, and he decides to leave for whatever reason. He just kind of steps out, maybe to get a breather or whatever. He's probably been cooped up in there all day. And now that it's night time, he's off out. He just goes for a little walk. But a couple of police show up. Obviously, Mulder and Scully have called some police to the train station to look for this guy, to look for anyone who may be suspicious, who's been hanging around. So these coppers show up. They just go to speak with him, but he gets really twitchy, kind of runs from them. So they pull their guns, and as they get closer, they basically step on his shadow, and I'm pretty sure his shadow moves towards them as well a bit. It seems to have a life of its own. But yeah, they get swallowed up. They disappear, leaving these kind of Highlander-style electricity marks in the floor. So.
It's good going. I think I read a little bit of trivia on this one, and they did say that the original script had the shadow moving quite a bit, and I think they just kind of toned it down because of what they had to do for production value, or because of the cost of production of that. But yeah, again, you kind of know what's coming. Tony Shalhoub looks dishevelled, looks angry, upset, all type of things. He just looks kind of someone that's in a sticky situation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But not as sticky a situation that he's locked himself away in a room where he can't harm anybody.
Yeah. Okay, so Kelly Ryan kind of shows up on the crime scene, and she's bricking it a bit because she's the one who sent the officers, and they're now missing after being sent per her instructions. So Mulder suggests to Scully that their suspect will be on security cameras for three of the different dates, because obviously these three victims, the police plus the two victims were at the train station or around the train station on three different dates. So if they can find someone on the camera footage that was there on all three of those dates, they may have a suspect. So they go and start to check the camera footage, and they find our guy looking at the floor, kind of looking a bit twitchy. Yeah. It seems at this point that they've already been looking at the footage for quite some time, and they say, go back to the beginning again, and then all of a sudden Mulder's like, see this guy, and it's like, really? Only now you get into that guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the one thing I was going to pick on there, just the fact that they just jump back to this, and it's like, it's not even like a packed station. There's literally two people on camera, one guy walking and one guy just acting so weird. Like,
he may as well have a neon sign on his head. Yeah,
and they do again, I know we keep harping on about it, I do love it. We get an enhance moment.
Just enhance that, please. Enhance,
yes, enhance again. Yeah, sure.
So
they get the name badge.
Polarity magnetics, yeah. So yes. Excellent. So that sends us to Polarity Magnetics, which is a scientific laboratory that is dealing with a neutron collider or some such thing, doing research into dark matter. So we get this dodgy-looking guy who we've seen before in the X-Files. He was in, I think, one of the Tombs episodes, either Squeeze or Tombs. I think he was a detective in Squeeze or something.
All right.
But he's been in the first season anyway. Oh, no. He was in, I think, Ghost in the Machine. I could be wrong. He was in a first season episode. We'll move on.
Right.
So anyway, he looks dodgy right from the get-go. I'll say that much. He says that Chester was involved in a terrible accident here, to which I instantly in my head think, and you wouldn't have anything to do with that now, would you, sir?
Do you know the first thing I thought?
What?
That's the origin story for a superhero.
It's like Darkman or something, isn't it?
Yeah, gamma rays.
Yeah, absolutely. But so apparently Chester was researching dark matter, and Chester Banton got trapped inside a particle accelerator and became one with science, basically. Mulder says, see, this is where I got a bit of a chuckle out of it, because Mulder says, what do you think, Scully? It's like he goes to her literally for her opinion. He wants to know if she's got any ideas, and he's like, what do you think, Scully? And Scully's like, you know what? I think you might be right. Spontaneous combustion starting to sound about right now. And Mulder's like, yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's something else. And I'm just like, you git. So you just let her walk straight into that one. It's like you've clearly got a new theory, and you're just like, you've been leading her down the whole spontaneous combustion side of things. And now that she's there, you're twisting it and saying, caught you out, Scully. Not really. I think it's something else.
It would have been almost better if he turned around and went, oh, come on, Scully, that's make-believe.
yeah. It's like, don't be silly. So we go back to the train station.
We get the supervillain watching in the camera.
Yes, which we could have done without, quite frankly. Because right off the bat, you know this guy is Dodge.
Yeah.
It's signposted. It's a bit like, if you remember that classic episode from the first season, Roland, when we had the dream sequence that pretty much spelled out that Roland was a twin. So it kind of just gave the whole game away before we ever got to the twist. It's like that, you know. If we didn't have this moment of him looking on that camera, then when he turns bad guy at the end, it would have come a bit more out of the blue. It would have been a bit more of a twist, a bit more of a surprise. So yeah, I hate it when they do that. It's almost like they just don't quite trust their audience enough to make that leap. So we go from there back to the train station, and we get this thing about soft light. Mulder kind of notices, he's looking at the floor where Chester on the cameras was sitting, and he makes a comment about, look at this, Scully, it's like soft light. It kind of makes me think of Robin in Batman Forever when he goes, look, the ground, it's full of holes, holy, you know. Just something that I just wouldn't expect anyone to say, ever. Yes. It feels like a kind of heavily scripted kind of thing, just to get the title of the episode in there. But yeah, they chase Dr. Banton because they see him and he does a runner, and they catch up with him, and they're basically in the exact same situation that the two police officers were in. But this being Mulder, and him being, you know, very attuned to the fact that, well, he looks for things that other people don't, quite frankly. He puts two and two together and he shoots the lights out, thereby kind of protecting himself and Scully from this guy's shadow.
Yeah. I don't know how he comes to that, but he does. The shadow thing.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's because of the whole dark matter explanation. Because when they're in the accelerator thing, they say something about the shadows on the wall, because they see his shadow burn, or his image burned onto the wall, don't they? And then they talk.
Which is a pretty good image.
It is a good image, yeah. But they mention something about science, basically. They just throw science at us.
Blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
science.
Yeah. Which was basically why I said before that Bantam became one with science, because because they did have this kind of scientific jargon discussion, and I was trying to make sense of it. I was trying to get my head around it, and in the end I just thought, bollocks to it. Bantam becomes one with science, and that was enough for me. So, yeah. So we go from there to Bantam being in a psych ward. How they got him there without any, thing is beyond me. But yeah, so they got him there without any mishaps. And they're talking about, Bantam's talking about getting brain sucked by the government. Like, this dude knows that his story, his whole shadow is alive and killing people story is going to be a stretch. He knows that people aren't going to believe him that much. He's in a psych ward. Wouldn't you think he'd choose his words a bit more carefully rather than saying they're going to do the brain suck? Yeah. It's like you're just inviting these people to think you're mental, basically.
It's probably it's the kind of thing you would say to make people think that you were crazy.
So Kelly Ryan pulls Mulder and Scully out of the interrogation, essentially tells them to take a hike. Mulder chews out Scully. This is my favourite scene. This is my favourite scene in the entire episode. So, like, there's a lot going on with the various characters. So, yeah, Kelly Ryan essentially tells them to take a hike. Mulder chews out Scully for letting Ryan's ambition get the better of her. He's kind of right, but so is Scully. And these are the best scenes for me. I always love these scenes where the two of them kind of argue, but they're both right. So Ryan's ambition gets the better of her, and Scully reacts by pointing out that she's a woman who is a member of a boys' club, which harkens back to that whole Clarice Starling idea, one of the heavy themes that was in Silence of the Lambs, which entitles her to some degree of ambition. And Scully says there's nothing they can do, and Mulder says there is. But yeah, this scene.
Yeah, I really like it because I read it incorrectly as it starts off. Ryan's talking to Mulder and Scully, and I thought Scully looked pissed. I thought she looked pissed off, and then they walk away, and then Mulder starts, and she's just like, whoa, hang on, and comes to her defence, and it was such a nice, unexpected turn that just made me say, like, go, you know what, she's right, she's 100% right.
But it just gives you, like, such a respect for Scully as a character, because, like, just the fact that she can recognise that, I think the easiest thing to do in a situation like that would be to get your back up and think, bitch, after everything I did for her, and she's done that to us. But no, Scully's like, she's a rational mind. She's also a very caring person, and she puts herself into Kelly Ryan's shoes, and she says, actually, you know what? I can see it. I can see why she's like this. I can see what she's doing. I've been there. So let her have her moment. So she does, and she reminds Mulder of it. So the thing that Mulder said that they can do is X. He basically goes for a meeting. Yay. With X. Yeah.
The secret guy who never helps.
Never helps, but always takes. Always use it. Like, you think Mulder would learn by now, but apparently not. We've seen this trait in Mulder before. He's a little bit too trusting of people who tend to screw him over, but there you go. And they meet in the same place. I like that they do this. The same location that they met at in the episode Sleepless, which was...
Right, I didn't catch that.
Okay, well, if you remember when we watched Sleepless, I talked a bit about the opening shot of that sequence where they were in like an abandoned football stadium or a football stadium being worked on, and they kind of pan in, and it was very cinematic. Well, they do the exact same thing here. So yeah, they bring us in, and that was kind of the thing that keyed me into the fact that this was the same location as I wouldn't be surprised if they just used the exact same establishing shot, to be honest, just to save themselves a bit of money. There are ways to cut around budgets and things. So, Yeah, Mulder meets X and basically gives up Dr. Banton.
Yeah.
He essentially goes to the people who are after him and says, he's right here.
Yeah.
There you
X,
go.
please help. The
Yeah.
government's after him.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, X says that he's got nothing to gain by helping Mulder and everything to lose. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's blood and regret. That's all he gets from Mulder.
Yeah,
That's what he says. Yeah.
yeah,
Quite nice. I like that.
yeah. So we go back to the hospital where Banton is, and X arrives with two orderlies, two security types.
Yeah.
To,
Two red shirts.
Yeah, yeah, basically to abduct Banton. Now, at this point, we could assume that maybe he's getting him out for Mulder, but I don't think realistically anyone is thinking that. I think they're thinking if he was going to do that, if that's what he was doing here right now, he would have told Mulder. He wouldn't have told Mulder, I've got nothing to gain from this, but everything to lose, and then go and do it. So clearly he's got his own agenda. He takes this guy out. Oh, he essentially is responsible for freeing him because, as you say, the two red shirts get killed, and X just looks freaked the heck out. And he kind of pulls his gun up to Banton, and then he has second thoughts and he lowers his gun. And there's this moment there of kind of fear in X's eyes, which I really like. And it's like he doesn't know whether to let this guy live or to kill him, because killing him, as somebody already alluded to in the episode, could actually free this force, this shadow. So yeah, but I love the facial expressions on X during this scene. He's just proper brick in it. So yeah. Mulder suggests the government are the ones who tried to take Banton, and they're the only ones who have the power to turn off the power to that building without affecting the surrounding area. Because when X turned up, all the power went out, but apparently it was just in that building. All the buildings surrounding it were fine, which would suggest something
Covert.
Yeah, covert, as opposed to a grid power cut. So Mulder suggests that Banton's main aim now is to destroy the dark matter shadow. There's only one place he can go to do that, which takes us back to the laboratory. Anything to say about that scene?
No, it's kind of perfunctory. It kind of has to happen, but it's nice to see X putting the kind of back foot.
Okay. So we go back to the lab where he meets douche scientist guy, and they walk down the corridor, and I had a real beef with this because I wish they'd have done something to hide it. But as they're walking down the corridor and they come round the corner, we're in a bit of a wide shot, and you clearly see shadows on the floor. You clearly see Banton's shadow. They're walking. Banton's shadow is right there in all its glory for us to see. And I'm like, okay. Like, if they'd have hidden that, if they'd have not had that in shot, you could be all like, well, I'm just going to assume this corridor is soft light, which would be negated by the scene that is about to come, to be honest. So even that probably wouldn't work too well. But yeah, you see it. You got this guy walking right behind him, and Banton's shadow is just there. So
there.
So just one moment after Banton makes sure he does not turn the lights on. So, sorry, I'm just I read one of my notes a little bit wrong then. Forget that. Okay. So Kelly Ryan busts in like gangbusters and gets killed. basically. So for anyone who didn't see that coming, given that this was someone personal from Scully's history, yeah, she gets it, and it's really well done.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of this scene?
I liked it. I was a little bit disappointed that the female cop goes, because I was kind of liking the way she was going along, with
Standing aground and things.
yes, and becoming like not like doing her own thing, trying to make her own mark in this kind of like male-driven world. I kind of thought this is going to be nice to see how this character evolves.
Yeah,
Don't know why I was thinking this.
It is a shame, because there are characters in much later seasons, like we're talking season 8, 9, 10 and 11, they've introduced ongoing female characters of this ilk, agents, and
that's fine, but at this time nobody was really building it up, and particularly in the X-Files, you have these idiot cops. They're always like bumbling fools, or they need their help along, and she seems like a rather strong three-dimensional character, which we're not used to getting with these kind of roles.
Side
these kind
characters,
of officers.
yeah.
Yes, and you feel, they feel like this is an actual shame that she goes.
Yeah, but my point is, those characters we get in the much later seasons aren't as likeable as this character here.
Right.
So it's a shame that when they have someone like this, it's a shame that they don't look at it and go, you know what, this actress is doing a really good job with what we've given her. This could be a character worth holding on to and just putting into the banks in case we want to bring someone back as a regular. Let's not kill her. So it is a shame that they kill her like this, but it is an impressive death scene. I love the way we cut to, like, because all the previous ones, when we've seen the Shadow kill these people, we never quite see it. We see them going down out of shot, but we never see the whole thing. In this one, we get a full-on wide shot, and we literally see her disappear into the shadow. Her arms go up as the force of her body is pulled down. I just love the way it's done. Really beautiful special effect. So
Yeah.
So where are we?
This is Dr. Evil seeing the effects of the shadow.
It is, yeah. Just before we move on, I did like as well about that scene that Banton, there is a moral choice there for Banton. This is the only life that Banton has purposefully taken. Oh no, with the exception of the guys who were trying to abduct him, of course. But here, there's a moral choice there. If she stops him, if he allows her to stop him, this could be the end of everything. Worst case scenario. So the way he sees it, it's like, I have to kill this woman because I cannot let anything get in my way from stopping my shadow, from killing myself, essentially. So I do like that moral choice that kind of forces him into that position. But so they go to the particle accelerator. Banton gets inside, completely trusting of this partner of his. You start the thing up, lock me in, and away we go. And he shuts the door, and this guy's like, I'm afraid I can't do that, Banton. And then that's when realization dawns on. But how much better would that moment have been if we hadn't have had that scene earlier with this guy looking at the monitors?
Yeah, 1,000 times better.
1,000 times. So yeah, Chris, his name is, reveals himself, and he calls for help, goes to the telephone, calls his backup, his people, whoever they may be, and gets shot in the back of the head by X, who suddenly peers through the hole in the accelerator, kind of making Banton jump a bit. And yeah, got him right where he wants him, right where he needs him. And this guy
didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. So I do like the way that scene plays out, though. I like the way Banton's looking through that kind of tunnel thing, and then X just kind of just appears. But Mulder and Scully arrive. There's been a lot of time. Not a lot of time for X to get this guy out of there, because obviously he can't just open the door and pull him out. They need to make sure that there's soft light. They need to make sure that this guy is covered or whatever, so that his shadow can't do them harm. But either way, Mulder and Scully get there, see Ryan's charred remnant, and Banton inside the accelerator. Banton inside the accelerator before he disappears, leaving a shadow burned into the wall. Mulder says it couldn't have been Banton alone that did it, because the door was locked from the outside. So he had to have had help.
Yeah. But they don't get an answer to that anyway. Yeah, I'm not really too sure.
I've got to say, there was a distinct difference in body type between Banton and douchebag scientist guy.
Oh yeah.
And the guy that is sat in the chair inside the accelerator definitely doesn't look like douchebag scientist guy. So,
I mean, hopefully it's recorded because they can get somebody to enhance the hell out of that picture.
Okay, so Mulder meets up with X, tells him he's finished with him after the nurse at the hospital ID'd him, and X says that he didn't kill Banton. I do like this scene.
Yeah. I mean, he's not lying.
No, he's not. He's not lying. Yeah, definitely. He's just definitely not to be trusted, this guy. Mulder just needs... No, and even Deep Throat wasn't to be trusted. No. We saw that time and time again. The fact of the matter is, Mulder just needs to stop with these government informers, these insiders, because they're only out for themselves, and they always screw him over. But I like that he basically tells X where to go, that they're done, that they're finished. But then you do get that sense, that kind of puppy dog sense from Mulder after X says I didn't kill him. There's a little bit inside Mulder that's like, well, maybe I'll deal with you again. We'll see what happens.
I think we're done. I think that's X done from the X-Files. We'll never see him again.
Nope. Okay, so we're at Ryan's funeral, and Scully doesn't know how to feel. Mulder puts two and two together about Doctors Chris and Banton, and just as to who was actually in the particle accelerator. But yeah, what do you think about Scully's thoughts here about this student that she trained and being at her funeral?
I mean, I don't know what age Scully's supposed to be. What do you think she's supposed to be in this episode?
Early 30s.
Right, because on the student's gravestone it said she was born, 65, died 95. So the Ryan was 30.
Right.
And I'm just like, I know I focus on the craziest stuff, but I'm just like, no.
No. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it all depends what age Ryan got into the force, because clearly Scully is an FBI agent, so she's gone through a lot more kind of training and years than Ryan. She could have started earlier. Ryan may have started later. And medical school. She's clearly a brighter mind, I think, than Ryan. Just given from past history we know of her. I don't think it's unfeasible, to be honest, to have Scully have gotten into it at a younger age and Ryan have gotten into it at a later age. It didn't bother me that much, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just got hung up in that. I was working stuff out.
No, I was more hung up on this idea that Scully doesn't know how to feel, and essentially, as much as we thought that Scully was right to defend Ryan, Mulder was also right that by allowing Ryan, kind of humouring her ambition, so to speak, it did essentially lead her to a death. Effectively, Scully could have prevented this from happening if she'd have called Ryan out on her ambition thing, a bit like Mulder said. So, yeah, I think maybe it would have been nice to see a little bit of guilt in Scully, you know, even if it's misplaced guilt. Just I think the natural process there for any human being might be that, oh, crap, I could have stopped this. But
maybe in a couple of episodes' time we'll get one about a deranged colour that kind of puts her back into that mindset and makes her relive our past traumas, and she'll come out of it that way, Brian.
Screw you. Yeah. Okay, so X visits Banton, who is going to be experimented on for a very long time.
And we get a single tear.
We do. And we get some nice sound design. This machine kind of, doing whatever it's doing, and we fade to black, and it just keeps going. It's very ominous, very depressing to think, you know, this Banton could be there now. You know, they could do a movie and bring this guy back as, you know, they could do like a Wrath of Khan on its ass. This guy's been experimented on for so many years that now he's just out of his tree and wants revenge. So, yeah, that'd be quite interesting. But yeah, it's a good ending. It just makes you feel quite depressed for this guy.
It does.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So who's wrapping up, Brian?
You wrap up. Go on.
Okay. I kind of like the ideas behind this episode of the shadows. I like some of the special effects. I think they're quite fun. I like the sort of playful nature between Mulder and Scully. We get the sort of jokes at the start, and then we get even Mulder teasing her about the spontaneous combustion. We get introduced to Clarice Starling, who's a really nice addition to the cast. Unfortunately, Buffalo Bill gets her in the end and kind of robs us over, but she's really good, and she's three-dimensional. She's another character that we feel as if has several facets and not just idiot sheriff or something like that we tend to get. And I feel you kind of have this bad guy who is not a bad guy. Most of his choices are made out of necessity, and it's you can almost see him weighing up on whether his decisions will kill one person or later kill multiple people, and he has to make the hard choices constantly. And I do like the idea behind that, and I actually genuinely like this episode. For me, I wasn't sure what to give it, but I ultimately landed on a 4 out of 5.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I went with. I was there were a few little niggles throughout. It's mostly technical issues, like seeing his shadow in scenes where it seemed a bit careless, and then just ruining that twist with the scientist guy by having that stupid scene with him looking through the monitor. I can't get over that. It boggles my brain that they do that. You know, you want to have that reveal, so why ruin it like that? Why signpost it to such a degree? But yeah, they're my main niggles. I think I would have liked Kelly Ryan to have survived, but you know, as far as death scenes go, it was a pretty good one. So. Yeah, I think it's a very solid episode. I think it's pretty well written. And I'd give it a 4 out of 5 as well.
Good stuff. So tell us a little bit about Our Town.
Our Town is one of them weird episodes because there's a lot. When X-Files episodes are bad, they're generally just bad. And it's like, it's just something you have to get through and get over it. Our Town is one of those rare breed of episodes where I know we're going to grade it pretty low. It's not a good episode, like from a technical standpoint, a writing standpoint, just things like that. But for whatever reason, it's not one that I skip. It's one that I actually quite enjoy watching. It's like it's a really frivolous episode. It doesn't mean anything. It's one of those episodes you get to the end of it and you're like, right, what was this episode trying to say? And I honestly don't know. So
okay.
in that, like with Humbug, it was so filled to the brim with commentary, social commentary, and just things to say. Our Town doesn't. It's not like that. And so in that regard, it's a terrible episode. But for whatever reason, yeah, I can stick it on and I can get some enjoyment out of it.
Well, you've made me curious about this one. I'm kind of interested to checking this one out now.
Okay.
That should be fun. So we'll see you next week for another episode of the X-Files Revisited.